Do I have that post-vacation glow? I just got back from a nice family vacation where I got to spend time with my in-laws, meet my new baby nephew, and most importantly, I got a chance to bond with my family by playing board games.
There's always room for family.
So I thought I'd make a video to talk about one of my favorite topics, vacation board games. Now that COVID is starting to ease up a little bit, people are starting to travel all over the place. So if you want some recommendations for which game to bring on your next trip, then might I suggest? Hi, I'm Alex and welcome to Might I Suggest a Game, a channel devoted to helping you find your perfect board game. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I was just in Durham, North Carolina for my family vacation. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, what's taking you so long? Find the link below in my description. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe and hit that little bell button so you can get notified every time I post new content. Anyways, today we're talking about vacation games. And when I say vacation games, here's what I mean. Vacation games to me fall in one of these three categories. Number one, games that the person or place you're visiting already has. Hopefully the person you're visiting has a little bit of the board game bug, or else you might get stuck with just Monopoly. And you already know how I feel about Monopoly. Anyways, number two, games at a local place that are readily accessible. Whether it's a board game cafe, or bar, or a friendly local game store, I love checking out the board game scene in different cities to support local businesses and play a game or two if I'm lucky. And number three, games you bring from home. Now if I could, I'd try to fit the whole collection in my suitcase, but I gotta keep it under that 40-pound limit. So I take each trip as an opportunity to curate the games that I can fit and also that I think would be best for the people that I'm playing with. This is always a fun exercise, and later I'll talk a little bit about the games that I brought on this trip. Anyways, Durham was a great trip for family time and vacation games. I actually got to play at least one game that fits into all three of these categories. So I'll go through the games that we played and give some recommendations that will hopefully help you on your next vacation. So, will one of these vacation games be the perfect game for you? Let's find out, shall we? Now, the first category of vacation games that we're going to talk about is games that the people or place that you're visiting already has. Now, I did get to play one of these types of games in Durham, and boy was it a doozy. Although my in-laws are definitely board game people, we didn't really tap into their collection. Instead, the game that we played that they already owned was Magic the Gathering. Oh my gosh, what can I say about Magic the Gathering? Magic the Gathering, as most of you know, is a collectible card game that's been around since the early 90s. Magic is a living game, and the amount of cards and abilities is always growing. And because of this, it can be a little bit intimidating to jump into it if you don't know anything about it. Now, my future brother-in-law, congratulations Hannah and Ryan, is a Magic enthusiast, so he was kind enough to share his pre-built decks with me and teach me the basics of Magic the Gathering. We played a few quick games of Commander, and I'm convinced he gave me the better deck because I actually squeaked out a win on my first try. Ryan told me the best advice for Magic is to read the card to understand the card. I appreciate how straightforward that is, and even though I didn't know any of the cards in my deck to begin with, it was pretty easy to catch on and start to see the synergies between different sets of cards. Once I got used to the tapping and untapping mechanisms and some of the details like summoning sickness and vigilance and things like that, I was off to the races and I really enjoyed it. Now the question is, will I now get into Magic? We'll see. I enjoyed playing the game, but I do know that it's definitely a commitment if you want to be good at it. Plus, I just started playing the Pokemon trading card game, so that might take priority because I think I can only handle one collectible card game at once. Either way, I really enjoyed playing Magic the Gathering. I'm looking forward to finding new opportunities to play it in the future, and maybe you'll find me at a pre-release event here in Portland when things open back up. Anyways, if you love finding the synergies and efficiencies in the strategy of the board games you play, if you love really beautiful and intricate art, if you want to play a classic collectible card game, or if you're just looking for a new hobby to spend all your money on, then might I suggest Magic the Gathering. The next category of vacation games is games at a local place that are readily available. On our last day in North Carolina, we were able to spend some time at a local cafe called Meeple's Brew. Now, we were on a bit of a time crunch because we had a flight to catch, which was kind of a bummer because they had a great selection there. But we were still able to sneak in a few games before we had to take off to the airport. When we got there, I immediately started perusing the board game shelves.
Hi there. Is there a project you're working on?
I know more than you.
Alright.
And I tried to take into account the amount of people that we had and the amount of time that we had. We had 7 people, so I ended up splitting us into 2 groups to play 2 different games. The first group of 3 had to leave a little bit earlier, so I had to find a game with a pretty quick play time. They also said that they wanted something cooperative so that they could all be on the same team. With those things in mind, I ended up settling on the game Fuse by Renegade Games. Fuse is a real-time cooperative dice game that plays from 1 to 5 players. In the game, players will have to work together to roll the dice and then use those dice to defuse a number of bombs on their ship. Now the twist is, the game has a strict 10-minute timer, as in 10 real-world minutes. So the gameplay can get a little frantic as players decide which die is going to work most efficiently to defuse their bombs. We were all playing at the same table, so you could tell the game was getting a little chaotic by all the sounds they were making. All in all, Group 1 said this was a fun game and they made it out of the cafe in time, which to me sounds like a success. So if you're looking for a fast-paced cooperative game that has to play in 10 minutes or you lose, then might I suggest Fuse. Now, Group 2, on the other side of the table, we played a game that was a little bit more low-key. We played Quacks of Quedlinburg from Schmidt-Spiele. You could play Quacks with 2 to 4 players, and in my opinion, it's a modern classic. For one reason or another, I don't personally own the game, but I've played it a number of times, and I really enjoy it every time I play. There's a little bit of push-your-luck, a little bit of bag building, and a whole lot of fun as players compete to make the best potions in the Quedlinburg market. I really like Quacks because it's pretty simple. All you do is reach into your bag and pick out a token every turn, and then really the only decision you have to make is whether you want to pick out another token or stop where you are. Now, as simple as that is, it leads to some really difficult decisions as the game goes on. Now, there's definitely a pretty big element of luck in this game, which can turn some people off, but to me, because the game is so light, the element of luck really brings a perfect amount of tension to an otherwise fairly simple game. Anyways, in Quacks, you're building a bag that includes ingredients to a potion that you're making. If you draw too many of the white tokens, then your potion will explode, and you'll get minimal rewards for that round. So, do you play it safe and get less rewards? Or do you push your luck and try to get more and more victory points and coins that'll help you buy more tokens to put in your bag for the rest of the game? It's a simple game, but it's full of tough decisions, and I thought it was a perfect game for a board game cafe. So if you want a quick game with lots of variability that leads to a lot of exciting drumroll moments, then might I suggest Quacks of Quedlinburg. The last category of vacation games that we'll talk about is the games that you bring with you. And trust me, I always try to bring as many games as I can. This trip was a pretty short one, and I had to pack pretty light, but I was still able to fit in 5 different games right next to my underwear in my suitcase. Maybe I shouldn't have shared that. Whatever, it's fine. Anyways, the 5 games I brought on vacation with me were Gudetama, Metro X, Cartographers, Werewords, and Concept. Now, what you'll notice about most of these is that they're small box games. I've said it before on this channel, but I really love small box games for this reason in particular. I mean, 4 of those 5 games take up the same footprint as the 5th box. And if I had to choose between taking 1 big game and 4 small games, of course I'm going to choose the quantity, especially because I don't have to sacrifice quality with these games. Okay, time to hop off the small box game soapbox. The only one of these 5 games that isn't a small box game is Concept. And the kind of annoying thing about Concept is that without the board, the rest of the components could probably just fit in a sandwich bag. Maybe I'll try that next time. But I knew my in-laws would really enjoy that game. We've played it before, and I hadn't played it in a while, so I sacrificed the space in my backpack because I really wanted to take that one. Anyways, we were able to play 4 of these 5 games, which I was pretty happy about. The only one we didn't get to play was Gudetama, which is fine, because that one's just kind of a filler card game that I like to play when I'm just killing time. The rest of the games, though, made it to the table, and we had a really good time playing them. So now I'm going to go through each of those 4 games, break them down a little bit, see how they rank as far as vacation games go, and let you know whether or not I'll bring them on my next vacation. So, let's jump in. The first game we played together was Metro X from Game Right Games. Now, I've talked about Metro X on this channel before, and I really enjoy this game because of how simple it is. We only played this one with 3 players, and it was pretty late at night, so I was very thankful for a simple rulebook and a quick pace of play. Also, definitely because of the jet lag and the time change, I did terrible in this game. Yeah, for sure, it was the jet lag. Either way, I still had a good time, it didn't take long, and it was a perfect way to kind of wind down the night before we went to bed. Metro X comes in a small box, and its whiteboard and dry erase pen components means that Metro X can be played in a lot of different environments. You can play it on the floor, you can play it on the couch, you can play it in the kitchen, on the patio, you can play it anywhere you want. That versatility makes it a really nice vacation game. The only downside that I could think of for this one is that the max number of players is 6. We technically had 8 people there that could have played, so I had to make sure we played this one with a smaller group. But overall, Metro X is a great vacation game. It comes in a small box with sturdy components, and because of the variety of the cards, every game feels a little bit different. So, will I be taking Metro X on my next vacation? Maybe. We'll see how many people come with me. The next game we played was Cartographers, and I was really excited to get this one in front of the family because none of them had ever played it before. It's one of my favorite new games that I've added to my collection, and it technically plays up to 100 players, so I knew everybody in the family could join in. Now, once we found enough pens and writing pads for everyone, I did a quick rules explanation, which was really straightforward, and then we started the game. And as we started, we realized the biggest issue. Whenever I flipped a card, it was really difficult for everybody playing to see that card. So, we came up with a solution. Every round, I'd flip over a card, and then I'd take a picture of it on my phone. Then, I'd send it to the family group text, and then everybody had a close-up picture of the card that they could reference. While that wasn't the ideal solution, it would probably be ideal if we were playing all around a circular table or something like that. It managed to work for us, and it didn't bother me too much once we got into it. Cartographers is another one of those games that's really compact, and you don't need much to learn it and start making your map. Everyone who played picked up on it super quickly, and it ended up being a really close game at the end. I'm glad I had at least one game that I could play with all the family members, and it ended up being a really memorable experience. So even though now the group text is filled with just pictures of random cards, I still think that Cartographers is a really good vacation game. So will I be taking Cartographers on the next vacation with me? If my next vacation is with 8 to 10 people, then absolutely. And if it's with less than that, then I'd still probably bring it, especially because you can play it solo. For those lonely nights where nobody wants to play with you. Anyways, on to the next one. The next vacation game that we played was Werewords from Bezier Games. Now this one was so new in the collection that we didn't even punch it out until we got there. But some of the family members are really into social deduction games and also have experience playing werewolf, so I thought this one would be a perfect fit. In Werewords, players will take on the classic werewolf roles. Either you're a villager, you're a seer, or you're the werewolf themselves. Now one player at the beginning of each round will be selected as the mayor, and the mayor will get to choose one of 2 words to be the secret word for the round. After the mayor goes to sleep, the seer will wake up to look at the secret word, and then go back to sleep, and then the werewolf will wake up to look at the secret word, and then go back to sleep. Then everybody else wakes up, and the village will begin to ask yes or no questions to the mayor to try to narrow down what that secret word might be. Now, if you're the seer, you're trying to guide the villagers to the correct answer without giving yourself away. But if you're the werewolf, you're trying to make sure the villagers do not get the correct answer. But if they do get the secret word, it's not over for you yet. If the villagers guess the secret word correctly, the werewolf will reveal themselves, and then they have one final chance to win. If the werewolf can guess the seer correctly, then the werewolf wins instead. But if they can't, then the villagers win as normal. If you get to the end of the 4-minute round and nobody's guessed the secret word correctly, then everyone in the group will have to decide who they think the werewolf is. Once everyone has voted, if you guess the werewolf correctly, then the villagers win. But if not, then the werewolf wins. Werewords is a really simple game, but the cool crossover between social deduction and word game is one that I really enjoyed. I found that it was similarly chaotic to a typical werewolf game, but it was definitely less antagonistic, which I enjoyed. Plus, Werewords again comes in a really small box, which makes it great for travel. The only negative that I could think of were the little yes or no tokens. The mayor is meant to give these yes or no tokens to each player as they ask questions to keep track of all the correct and incorrect answers. But because there's so many of them, they can get kind of finicky and they risk being dropped or lost on the floor. It probably wouldn't be that big of an issue if you were playing on a big table, but we were definitely playing it more free form, standing up in the living room and all that, so the tokens were a little bit harder to handle. So, would I take Werewords on my next vacation? I think if you're going on vacation with friends or people that are really into social deduction, then this one is a great small box alternative to something like Secret Hitler. So I guess the answer is yes. Plus, it's new to my collection, and I always want to try new games multiple times to get a feel for them. Anyways, on to the last one. The last game we played was Concept. Now, I mentioned before that Concept was the only one that had a bigger box out of all the games that I brought. And it's because the board for the game is fairly large. Now, Concept is a game that I hadn't played for a few years maybe, but when we first got it, it was one of my favorite games. So I really wanted to dust it off and bring it back out to the table. Concept is kind of like charades, but with pictures and icons. You'll get a secret word, name, or phrase, and you'll try to get the other people to guess it. There is a team version of the game where you keep track of points, but we usually just play it cooperatively. In Concept, you'll put down little markers on icons all over the board to try to get people to guess the word that's on your card. At this point, we've played the game so much that we really like to challenge ourselves with some of the hardest clues on the card, or even come up with random clues from Wikipedia. That's expert mode, folks. Anyways, this is a great bonding game because you really get to understand how other people think. I really love the aha moment of Concept when someone guesses the correct answer, and all those random cubes on the board finally make sense. This one's quick to pick up, super easy to learn, and it's a great cooperative family game where everybody gets to be on the same team. The only unfortunate thing about this game, other than its slightly larger size, which I mentioned earlier, is the fact that it has these tiny little colorful cubes that you use on the board. Now, from a functional standpoint, it makes a lot of sense, but when you have little kids running around who think those little cubes are candy, that can get a little dicey. But as long as you have it on sort of an elevated table or something like that, you should probably be fine. So, will I be bringing Concept with me on my next vacation? Well, here's the thing. I really enjoyed playing Concept, and I think it was a hit with all the people in the family, but because of the bigger box size, I have a hard time justifying a big spot for it in my suitcase. I think maybe if I just took the
the board out and then put the rest of the components in a plastic bag like I mentioned earlier, I might be able to get away with it. But then do I have to wrap the board in something to make sure that it doesn't get busted? It just seems like a lot of moving parts. So from now on, I might just reserve concept for more local game nights. Or even better, I'll just convince the people I'm visiting to buy it. Anyways, those are all the vacation games we played while we were in Durham, North Carolina, and I think it was a pretty good list. Let me know what your favorite vacation games are down below in the comments so that I can get some inspiration for the next vacation I go on. Thanks again for all the support so far. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so I can keep growing this channel and keep helping you find your perfect board game. Once again, this has been a Might I Suggest a Game production, and I'm Alex, your board game sommelier, signing off.